Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate.
We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
Now that's a lot of damage!
The financial crisis of 2008 was one of the largest, most damaging crises in history. Over $750 billion was wiped off the face of the earth, the same as the entire GDP of Switzerland. 84 million people were pushed below the poverty line, equivalent to the population of Germany, and the spectacular collapse of Lehman Brothers, one of the largest investment banks in history, irreversibly changed the global financial system. But what actually caused it? In this three-part series, we're going to explore some key perspectives on what caused the global financial crisis and look at how we can prevent a crisis like this in the future. Hi guys, Joe here from Money Talks, and today we're looking at how government and regulation caused the global financial crisis. It's been said that almost every financial crisis has political roots, and the global financial crisis of 2008 was no different. The US government had a clear agenda to increase home ownership levels as a way of reducing income inequality. This meant expanding mortgage lending to people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds who historically were not able to get a foot on the property ladder. We could say that this is what started the property bubble. Politics also had an influence on monetary policy. The terrible safety net and unemployment benefits in the US made it very vulnerable to recessions, creating a political incentive to avoid them and keep unemployment low. This meant that the chair of the US Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, was pressured to keep interest rates very low for an extended period of time. As any economist will know, low interest rates make people more willing to spend rather than save in the present, which stimulates the economy and creates jobs. Sounds great, right? Well, low interest rates also meant that mortgage lending rates were historically low, making them more accessible to lower income individuals and further inflating the property bubble. Alongside this, central bankers and government officials lobbied to strip away the post-depression era regulation that had helped maintain financial markets for decades. Under this free market ideology that assumed markets would operate more efficiently without the shackles of regulation, financial institutions like banks and mortgage lenders were pretty much free to do what they wanted. What could possibly go wrong? With a complete lack of consumer protection, devious lenders found ways to sell people mortgages which they could never conceivably pay off. Some of these marvellous creations included
ninja loans, no income, no job. I just leave the income section blank if I want. Corporate doesn't care.
And accordingly, 60% of borrowers exaggerated their income. Adjustable rate mortgages,
Adjustables are bread and honey,
that had initial teaser rates of 2%, but in the fine print stated this increased to a whopping 28% after 1 year. And loans where the minimum payment each month didn't even cover the interest on the loan. These dodgy credit standards meant the subprime mortgage market grew to a whopping $600 billion by 2006. At this point, the sharp-eyed among you might be thinking that things are starting to look a little precarious. For the rest of you, I recommend glasses. Should have gone to Specsavers, am I right? Guys? No? Sheesh, tough crowd. Anyway, property is a unique asset in the sense that it's very hard to take a contrarian view in the housing market. If you thought the price of a stock will decrease, for example, you could easily express that view by shorting the stock and putting downward pressure on the stock price. However, before 2008, there was no easy way to short a house. Now you might be thinking, aha! But didn't Michael Berry short the housing market in The Big Short? And yes, but he had to offer up billions of dollars to banks in order for them to create a completely bespoke product that allowed him to short the housing market. Most normal people don't run billion-dollar hedge funds and so don't have access to this type of investment. By the way, if being a hedge fund billionaire sounds great, then check out our video on the top investment strategies used by hedge funds. On top of the fact that only positive sentiment could be expressed in the housing market, increasing house prices are actually self-reinforcing. since higher prices lead to greater equity ownership, allowing you to sell and buy a more expensive house, which further pushes up the price, which further increases your equity, and so on. All these factors combined make the housing market incredibly prone to bubbles. In the 5 years before the global financial crisis, US house prices increased by over 100%, an increase that should take around 20 years under normal economic conditions. This housing bubble was the snowball that led to the avalanche that was the financial crisis. But just how does a localized property bubble lead to the downfall of the global economy? Stay tuned for part 2 to find out how this property boom fed into the world's financial system and led to the largest financial crisis in history. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. Thanks for watching and have a great day.